Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first ever Out of Frame podcast. I am your host, Sean Malone, and with me are my two co-hosts, Jen Maffasanti and Paul Nelson. This is obviously the first time we've ever done this, so forgive us if it's a little bit rough or if we don't totally know what we're doing here. But we've been doing the Out of Frame series for a few years now, and there's always so much more to say. There's always so much more to talk about. And for those of you guys who've heard me talk or you watched the AMA that I did a couple months ago or a month ago, I love talking about this kind of stuff. I love digging deeply into pop culture and movies and kind of trying to pull out the ideas and all of those things. And we've all sat together and talked about these things tons of times. And we just thought it would be interesting to try to do this in a longer format, in a format where we could actually have a bigger group discussion. It's going to be a little bit more off the cuff. It's going to be a little bit more raw in a lot of ways because we really haven't talked about exactly what we're going to say on any of these things. And, obviously I haven't written out the 20-page script or whatever that this is going to be. So, hopefully you guys enjoy this as much as we're going to enjoy making it, and stick around. If you like what we're doing, let us know. If you hate what we're doing, also let us know, because we'd like to be better over time. And with that in mind, I'd like to kind of turn it over to my co-hosts here, because they're the ones you probably don't really know. So starting with Jen, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I am Jen Maffasanti. My name looks very scary when it's written down, but it just has a lot of double letters. It's fine. I'm the senior writer at FEE. And I help co-write the Out of Frame Shorts video scripts. I also help co-write the Common Sense Soapbox video scripts. I also write original essays and articles for FEE.org, and I write just like all of the things. I help out with social media copy. I help out with email copy. I help out with landing page copy. If it's written down, I probably look at it at least once. So that's what I do.
Including companion pieces for Out of Frame.
Yes. And I'm really into fantasy and sci-fi. That's like my genre. I love speculative fiction of all kinds. And really big nerd. Love to read as well.
Yeah, Jen will probably talk more. Of the three of us, she's probably more likely to recommend books.
Definitely.
Than the rest of us.
I don't read much.
Fair enough. Speaking of that. Paul.
Yeah.
Illiterate Paul.
So when I'm not reading, I like to watch movies. But so my name is Paul Nelson. A lot easier to spell and say than Jen's name. But so at FEE, I'm a senior marketing manager, and I also edit the short episodes of Out of Frame. So I got into the industry by working for a group that did a lot of short documentaries, and I found that I really cared a lot about these ideas, and I found FEE and Sean's work and thought it'd be a perfect fit, and joined just over a year ago. So it's been a great year, and I look forward to these discussions.
Yeah. So we don't totally know if we're going to love the format that we've kind of selected for this, but we have some ideas on how we want the show to go. We want to talk each week about a specific sort of featured movie, something that the three of us watch and then are able to talk about together. But I'd also always like to talk about kind of what we're just watching normally, like what you're watching by yourself, what you're watching with your family, your kids. So with that in mind, I'd like to maybe do a segment just on what are you watching? What are you thinking about watching? And for me, I've actually been watching Stargirl lately, which is on the DC Universe platform, which not everybody has, I recognize. Although it feels like they're trying to link up with HBO Max, because now I think you can get the new Doom Patrol series both on DCU and HBO Max. So I'm not really sure if they're merging that or what they're doing. But
I see you, HBO.
Yeah, right? Stargirl's been interesting to me. It's the first of the DCU shows that I haven't actually kind of loved. All the DCU original shows I've seen so far, have kind of surprised me a little bit, because the trailers, especially for that first Titan series, kind of weird, and like you didn't really know what to expect from it, and it, like, especially that first trailer was like some rough effects and things like that didn't really come together very well. But the writing has been generally really strong. And then when they got into Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing in particular, I thought, like, they're actually doing really good work. Stargirl's been interesting, though. Like, it's a character that is, and maybe this is just my age showing a little bit, but it's the main character is a teenager who is kind of a brat and who has been kind of gifted with all of these powers. And the thing that's been annoying me about the show, we're about 6 episodes in now, I think 6, and every single episode she has been told how dangerous the power that she has is and how dangerous all of the things that she's getting caught up in are. And only this most recent episode did she experience any consequences whatsoever that I thought were like remotely negative. And even the consequences that she experienced were like kind of weak as far as it goes. And this would be appropriate for DCU. Like, it's not on CW. You don't generally get people dying or like characters like getting maimed or anything like that. You do get that in the DCU shows. Nothing like that has happened, and it should. So I feel weird because I kind of half recommend the show, but also I feel like the main character needs to like lose an arm or something. I don't think that she has fully like grasped the gravity of what she has taken on, and I don't think the show is yet doing a very good job of like raising the stakes. I think. What are you listening to, or watching, or reading?
I watched Knives Out recently.
Nice.
Yes, the Rian Johnson movie. I've not yet forgiven that man.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone ever will. However, I think we can all agree that his strengths lie in whodunits and not science fiction. So, Rian Johnson, if you're listening to this podcast,
That's fair.
stick to the whodunits. So,
I kind of hope Ryan Johnson is not listening to this
probably.
podcast. I'll have many not great things to say about Ryan Johnson.
Yes, well, I will say
Sorry, man.
that Knives Out was a delightful film to watch. In places, it was deeply uncomfortable just because of the family dynamic, just the awkwardness and the tension. And these people clearly are terrible people who really don't like each other. And then at the same time keep telling the housekeeper / nurse that they think of her like family. Yeah. And that is the most horrifying thing that they could ever say to another human being. It's magnificent. And we have Daniel Craig with this ridiculously overblown Southern gentleman accent.
I don't even understand. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm from the South. I cannot pick out where it's supposed to be from. It was like someone just described.
Did you see Logan Lucky?
No, I haven't seen Logan Lucky.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah.
I forget who's the director, but it's the same director that did Layer Cake, I think, which I also really liked. I'm pretty sure. No, wait. Yeah.
Is that Guy Ritchie?
Guy Ritchie didn't do Layer Cake.
Did he not?
What am I doing?
I don't
Am I
know
wrong?
what you're doing.
I'm going to look this up.
This is a noble answer.
I guarantee.
Yeah.
I really thought Layer Cake was Guy Ritchie.
But Logan Lucky's fantastic.
Okay.
It is Ocean.
put it on the
No!
Ocean's-
Oh my God. It's Matthew Vaughn.
Okay.
Was
I
I
don't know
thinking?
where I was then.
All right. In any case, we should probably cut a good chunk of this. But so like Logan Lucky, he's also like a Southerner, and the accent just is all wrong.
Yeah.
Like I'm not convinced
Yeah.
Daniel Craig can do accents.
I honestly.
By the way, that's not to say I didn't enjoy it
Yeah.
in Knives Out, because it's a really interesting
It's hilarious.
accent. It just makes no sense.
It is so extra as to be
Yes.
flawless as far as I'm concerned. I'm from the South. I grew up in this. I've never lived anywhere other than the South. So Southern accents in movies and TV shows are kind of a big deal to me, but I'm fine with this one. Like, it's totally fine.
It's ludicrously over the top and weird and makes no actual sense. But it's
But so does most of the movie.
It's true, and it's unique, and
Yeah.
it stands out for sure.
It is definitely his character's funny hat.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I also like Michael Shannon a lot.
Yeah.
But I always like Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon's always a winner.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like he just really, really crushed that role in Knives Out, and it's funny, and it's horrifying, and the very last shot of that film makes the whole experience worth it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to give the game away here, but just that's what I have been watching.
Agreed. What about you?
Yeah, so I have a sports-sized hole in my heart due to COVID, and I've been rewatching Formula One Drive to Survive. It is a fantastic look behind the scenes of the circus that is Formula One. The personalities, the drama, it's just beautifully well done, and it just makes me, I can't wait. I think we're airing this on the 3rd, so 2 days when this airs, you can watch an actual race. So can't wait for that.
I'm so excited for racing.
Yeah. So things the audience should also probably know. There's a big Venn diagram of things. This one is one I'm not a part of really at all, which is Paul's love of sports, Jen's love of and family connection to car racing, and I'm just out. I have neither of those exist. Really at all.
Well, you could probably appreciate the cinematography.
Yes.
Formula
Actually,
One, Drive to Survive.
I'll say this much: big Top Gear fan, big Grand Tour fan. Just Top Gear.
Yeah, more different Top Gear.
Actual Top Gear. Sorry.
Totally not Top Gear.
Totally
we
not.
promise.
Definitely not Top Gear.
Definitely not Top Gear. On Amazon. But no, I like that. I like looking at that kind of stuff. But I've never been like a sports guy or like a racing guy or any of that kind of stuff.
It's okay, Sean. Nobody's perfect.
It's true.
Can't like everything.
Yeah.
You can't.
But Drive to Survive season 2.
Yeah, there's 2 seasons,
Okay.
and they do it a year back of when the race actually happened. So the first season would be detailing the 2018 season, and this newest season would have been last year's.
Nice.
I believe that's correct. So, but yeah, definitely recommend it. It's fantastic.
There is so much drama in Formula One, y'all.
I bet.
And it's much of it's below the surface, and they do a great job of actually having access to the teams, and a lot of things that you hear, rumors and whispers, play out in just full 4K glory, and it's
Nice.
It's fantastic.
Awesome. So there's no real good way to segue into this, but we did all get together and watch a singular movie for this week, and we spent a lot of time talking about what movies we wanted to start with, what we wanted to talk about, and a lot of different ideas came up, but the one we actually landed on, as I'm sure the title of the episode will probably give away, was Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
Paul Verhoeven's loose take on Heinlein's story from 1997.
1997.
I was certainly old enough. I would have been, how old was I? 15, I guess, when this movie came out.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
I was a little bit younger than that.
Math on that, 14, I guess.
So I wasn't quite old enough to go see it in the theater, but it was, I was only probably 2 or 3 years late in watching it for the first time.
I was pretty far behind. I was way too young.
Yeah. Starship, I'm sure I saw this in the theater because this would have been, I would have been exactly at the right age to just sneak into R-rated movies, just get right in there. Mm-hmm. This movie, I've watched tons of times. So full disclosure, we actually watched 2 movies for this recording session so that we could do one for next week as well. I won't spoil what that is because we'll get to it next week. But that movie is the other movie is one that I feel like everybody's watched a million times. I've probably watched like 4 or 5 times max. Starship Troopers, I have watched dozens of times, easily. I've watched this movie so much. I would also highly recommend the riff tracks of Starship Troopers. It is one of there are like, riff tracks is sort of hit or miss to some extent. Like there are movies that they like that aren't great, and then there are movies that are just bang on the funniest riff tracks you can imagine. This is in that category. This is Anaconda, like Independence Day level, top tier riff tracksing. So if you guys ever have a chance to revisit this with that, I totally recommend it. But before I get into my thoughts a little bit more on this, what do you guys think? I'm sure you haven't watched this in a long time.
I hadn't watched it in a long time. I had watched it several times though before, but like as a teenager, maybe once in my very early 20s, and then like nothing for 10, 12, 15 years, however old I am. So yeah, I'm a very different person than I was the last time I watched this movie. And I know a lot more about Heinlein's novel and like his thinking behind the story that he actually created, as opposed to what got put on the screens in America. And it's just, I took like 2.5 pages of notes while I was watching this movie, this go round.
I'm excited to go through your kind of notes on this.
And it is, I remember thinking previously that this was a very rah-rah USA kind of propaganda film. And I know that a lot of people took that away from this movie. Yeah. This time around, like I think I saw the satire. Yeah. Like I think I saw, and I think the main failing of this movie is that it leaned a little too hard into it, fell victim to Poe's law, which, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, means that the more sincerely like a satire is pursued, like it's basically impossible to tell if somebody's joking.
Yeah, right. So if there's like a satirical point, or like that's really absurd, or somebody's actual absurd belief.
Yes. It's impossible to tell if they're being sincere or if they're being satirical.
I actually I hadn't thought about describing Starship Troopers that way, but I said to my wife last night about this, it's like somebody who wasn't fully sure what satire was.
Yes.
It's like Paul Verhoeven didn't quite get how to like make something into commentary and just made it like the thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
I think just missed the mark on the satire, and because it was barely off target, it was way off target.
But that's also, to me, what makes it a little bit of like the perfect B movie in a lot of ways, which is why I've watched it a ton of times.
Very much that.
Because it's utterly sincere in its ludicrously over the topness.
Yes.
Like there's nothing about it that is like I don't get anything cynical about the movie. Like I don't think Paul Verhoeven was trying to like make a dumb monster alien, war movie, right? Like I don't think he was trying to make like a kick-ass version of that. And then he made a dumb version of that.
Oh.
I mean,
bless him.
Again, I still love it, but like,
This was the first time I've ever seen this, and it's been on the list and keeps getting pushed down. And this was the first I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally watch it, and I did not like it at all. I knew going in kind of what the whole idea was, that it wasn't, don't take it at face value. About the only two things I could say that are good things in my mind was the visual effects still hold up surprisingly well.
Shocking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these little vignettes that they had, the newsreels, those are actually spot on.
Did your desire to know more intensify?
It did. But the problem is that there was no conclusion to it. There was no tying in. It was just all kind of like,
They're perpetual war, man. They're at war forever.
And I think I rarely, my wife hates this about me because I just hate pausing movies. I mean, obviously stop, go to the restroom, stuff like that. But I find myself about an hour and a half in, I paused. I'm like, how much time is left on this?
Oh no.
And I rarely do that. And
It's a long movie too.
It is. The first 30 minutes, I was like, okay, I can kind of, good world building. But then once Buenos Aires.
I had that thought a little bit rewatching it too. There was like one or two too many of the same battles.
Yeah.
In the movie, because for those who haven't seen the movie, first of all, you should, because it is one way or another. It's kind of a classic of like big, ridiculous sci-fi. Like it's something you should for sure see, like The Fifth Element or something like that, where even though it's like not actually a great movie, like you should probably watch it.
And I would also throw out that the story of Starship Troopers, not even necessarily the movie, but just like the whole story, is one of those like core foundational science fiction stories, almost on the same level as Dune. To be perfectly honest, like I did not fully appreciate how strongly that story had influenced so many other stories, science fiction stories that I enjoy. Ender's Game comes to mind. Like
we should get into Heinlein in a bit, because this was the first time that I had seen this movie since I had read any Heinlein. I somehow never read Robert Heinlein at all. Like when I was growing up, it was just not on my radar a little bit, or it became on my radar later, and I just kind of didn't get to it. But we should talk about that in a minute. I wanted to follow up on the thing with Paul though, is for those who haven't seen the movie, like it's a very simple movie. I mean, it's basically there's a alien species that the Earth has been colonizing the galaxy. They've been going farther and farther out, and they encounter this species, this sort of bug aliens, insects, essentially. And as they get more into the insects' territory, the insects start attacking settlers and killing people and all that kind of stuff. And then, like Paul pointed out, there's this really the key inciting incident of the movie. And the setup is long. The setup is like a good 45 minutes of this movie. But the actual sort of inciting incident is this attack on Buenos Aires. The bugs send like this asteroid, and it destroys the whole city and kills millions of people. And so from that point on, the rest of the movie is just war.
So I did have a question about this, and I might have missed this, but the asteroid that did end up hitting Earth, why didn't they shoot it out of the sky like they shot the first asteroid?
Unclear.
This is the kind of my whole thing with the movie. I was left thinking about, well, why are we doing this?
It's doubly unclear to me in that moment because it crashes into Denise Richards' ship in space, like well outside of
it's not
Earth's
like they
orbit.
didn't know.
So they would have
was
had
coming.
a pretty decent warning. So I'm not really sure.
Part of me wants
Government
to say
failure.
part of me wants to say that the Federation government had been looking for an excuse to invade the bug homeworld, and
I mean, I think
there is one.
So this is the Building 7 argument of Starship Troopers.
But to be honest, that would actually fit. I mean, let's get into the Heinlein stuff a little bit, because I think that would actually fit in a Heinlein conception.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So Heinlein is a very well-known libertarian author. I mean, obviously one of the greats of sci-fi, but he's probably particularly known as being an advocate for I would say libertarianism, but he's more
just personal liberty,
personal
like
liberty in
individual
general,
liberty
and individualism. And there's some great quotes that he's had about, and you'll see these passed around online about like the things every man should learn how to do, and it's like this laundry list of really like great self-sufficient skills, like build a house from scratch and fix an engine, do these kinds of things, and like. The first time I read any of Heinlein, I read Stranger in a Strange Land, which is a really weird book about a Martian, but actually like a human. Like it's what's strange about it is basically like the Martian character is really one of the first humans that was actually born on and raised on Mars, but he's still a human. But then he has like psychic powers and teleportation powers. It's really unclear how he got any of that stuff to me. So like the writing was like a little odd in that sense, but it's a classic of sci-fi literature and multiple parts in sort of true Heinlein fashion. There's like, it's not like separate books, but it's like fully different parts. They should have just been broken up into multiple books. Starship Troopers, I think, does the same thing. I think it's in 2 parts. I think so. But Heinlein, the first thing, the reason why it was important to me was because I noticed for the first time watching this movie, the very first thing that happens in the movie is Michael Ironside teaching a history class or a civics class, and he talks about government being force and violence, and it's the most Heinlein thing that anybody could possibly write.
Yes. I wrote a lot. I wrote down a lot of notes about that part.
Michael Ironside's great in this movie.
Yes, he is. You looked like you had something to say. Sorry.
Oh.
No.
Paul hates this movie.
Paul hates this movie.
You got to give it to Michael Ironside.
No, Michael, he was great. He was probably the best actor in the best performance in this movie by far. Everyone else was, wow,
just
really bad.
I don't want to step on the intellectual part of this at all, but let's just review here. Casper Van Dien, not great.
No.
Denise Richards,
not great.
not great. Tina Meyer played Dizzy.
Not
Better, but not great.
Not her best work.
Neil Patrick Harris, amusing,
But really
very
creepy.
tiny part, and kind of creepy.
Really creepy.
Right.
Clancy Brown, awesome. I'm going to give it to Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown also has some of my favorite moments in that movie. About there's a scene when Casper Van Dien goes to boot camp basically for the first time, and a kid's complaining about why they need to learn to throw knives because it's Jake Busey actually complaining about how I have to throw knives, and it's just I'm not even going to spoil it. Just the perfect possible answer to that question is delivered by Clancy Brown.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, do check that out. But no, it's not. It's not well acted. Like there's.
No.
I think
and the characters really don't make any real. There's
They're
no
thin.
depth of
They're
character.
thin.
They're very thin. Johnnie Rico is just square jaw, handsome man running around with a rifle.
Also,
as far as I'm concerned, like that is.
Also, I had always tried to it had always baffled me as to why Johnnie Rico is like a super American name, and he's a kid from Buenos Aires. And there's part of it where you go, well, it's the future. Like everything is kind of America now, a little bit in this future, because it's all like white people pretty much all over the place, and it's very American.
I was like, when did Buenos Aires become California?
In the book, his name is Juan. It's Juan Rico, who then gets called Johnny or whatever.
Okay.
But like, could have done that, but it's 1997, so we're not doing that. Okay, we can't have a Juan character as your main thing.
The 90s were just super white, you guys.
Yeah, and the funny thing though, if you really think about it, is you could have made it Freddie Prinze Jr. He could have played the Casper Van Dien role in the late 90s, and it actually would have
been Rico.
worked really
and
well.
he would have been better at it.
Probably, yeah. And you could have pulled Freddie Prinze Sr. to be his dad. And then it all would have...
A lot of decisions with this movie that I question. And that's another one, I guess now I have to question that. But I think the biggest sin is that they ruined football.
Also, yes.
Absolutely ruined
I
football.
was so mad about that.
I don't know what game they were playing.
Like, I was fully on board for Diz being the quarterback, okay? Like, I'm fine with that.
Sure.
But then... what else are you doing with this game?
Acrobatics.
Like
there's flips. There was a cushioned mat floor that looked like a wrestling mat.
I
I'm
genuinely
not entirely
don't
sure.
know.
Unclear.
There was just
Hockey helmets.
Hockey helmets, yeah. The ball is silver. So like it's just what are you even doing to this game? Like what have you done?
They did ruin
what have you done?
Violin playing later in the movie.
That too.
Also, yes.
Same kind of way. but that's fine. Anyway,
also,
to your
can
point.
Can I just point out the ruining the violin bit?
Yeah.
when he's playing the violin in celebration after that big victory, he's playing Dixie.
He is. I know. At the first thing that Jake Busey plays is like a Confederate. It's like a weird Confederate song. But also, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that somewhere out of nowhere there is a bass part that comes in.
I realized, I was like, who has the other instrument?
No
Because there was only one box.
No one.
No one.
With one violin, green
It
violin.
didn't matter. So there's a thing. So for those who aren't super familiar with my background, I started my life as a musician and a composer, and a film composer. And in film composition, and really in everything for film, there's these ideas of exegetic and diegetic. And exegetic is anything that happens outside of the context of the movie itself. So like the score to a movie is an exegetic concept. It's something that doesn't actually exist in the world of the movie, but supports the drama of the movie, right? Editing, subtitles, like all of these things are like things that you're not meant to associate with like the characters literally doing these things. Otherwise, your brain would go nuts trying to figure out where the string orchestra was that was playing in Star Wars or whatever. It wouldn't make any sense. Diegetic is whatever happens like actually in the context of the story. So Jake Busey is playing diegetic music, right, on this violin. What's always super weird is when you mix those and you go, Jake Busey here on screen playing violin, but also there's like 2 or 3 other parts happening simultaneously played by no one. And you see this a lot. Like I forget what movie it was. You'll find this all over the place. I remember a movie where they had like the equivalent of a bluegrass band with like a bass and maybe a guitar and a banjo, or a fiddle and a banjo, and there was like drums happening. And I was like, you can't.
What? That's not how bluegrass works.
Also that, but like, where is it coming from? It's that kind of stuff that will ultimately take you out of the movie. And if you start like observing it, and I think one of the interesting things to me about really deeply caring about the process of movie making is that for everybody who watches that scene, I just have to imagine you're going to have a little bit of a moment of like, there's something weird about this. Mm-hmm. Not that you know what it is, but like you're just going to go like, I don't know. There's something that felt unreal about it or something that felt a little off about it. Once you dig into the technique part of it, you can identify it and you can go, oh, yeah, that didn't make any sense because of that.
Now, when you brought up Jake Busey playing Dixie, I wonder in a movie full of, I feel like intentional choices that to make it feel like it's just do you think it was intentional to play Dixie?
I think it was.
It's an improper reference for me because the actual reference would come later in real time, but it's a Ken Burnsy thing to me. It's like watching a documentary about war, and they're playing like old timey, violin, it's like solo violin stuff, like fiddling, you know, and it's got that like Civil War era kind of vibe to it, you know. And I don't know, Paul Verhoeven might just not know the context of
that is a
music,
legitimate possibility, but I think it's just I think it was sort of supposed to be this moment of look at these idiots celebrating death.
Yeah.
You know? And let's just pick the worst song for that. And literally fiddling Dixie after wholesale slaughter and all of your friends are dead. And
I mean, it brings up an interesting point though, because there's like no moment of introspection in this movie.
No, not at all.
There's like not one single moment. And I don't know. I mean, I suppose we can spoil stuff in these a little bit. I don't want to spoil anything crazy.
The movie did come out in 1997.
It did come out in 1997. So
you've had your chance.
You've had your chance. You know, so like Dizzy dies, right?
Yeah.
And she's a major character, and when she dies, it's meant to be a surprise. That moment, like she just has like a victorious like action against one of these giant bugs or whatever. And then she gets surprise killed by one
as soon as they showed her pumping her fist.
Oh,
I'm like,
she's
right?
dead. She's dead.
Totally dead.
And that's the only moment she does get a funeral. Several scenes later, she does get a funeral. But there's like no moment even between then and like the next scene of like this woman who like Johnnie Rico might love or might have built a relationship with, like, gone.
Just gone.
He does get like a weird, awkward slow motion. No, kind of whatever. But
And like his eulogy
oh yeah,
was just, she was my friend. She was a soldier, but more importantly, she was a citizen. And she knew what it meant to sacrifice yourself.
yeah.
Bye, Diz. Out the airlock.
So-
like, that's the whole thing.
So before we wrap this up, I would like to actually talk about the themes of the movie, because I feel like that's a very out of frame kind of thing to do. And we're already probably over whatever time we said we were going to
definitely
here.
way over.
But that theme of like, so it's presented really early again by Michael Ironside, is the idea that being a citizen in this world, at least, means that you are accepting the responsibility for other people in your society. You're saying that by gaining the right to vote and the right to make decisions on behalf of everybody, you are responsible.
And you
for
have
everybody.
to earn it. This
And you
is
have to
not
earn it.
Citizenship is not automatic.
Right.
You have to do some sort of required service in order to gain citizenship. That's the main way presented.
Yeah.
I think there are other ways in the book, but I don't recall them off.
So the interesting thing a little bit to me is that, like, that is kind of the stated theme a little bit. It's, if you were to you have to stretch to get here. But if there's anything that I think Johnnie Rico is supposed to be learning throughout the course of the movie, it's the responsibility that comes with being a citizen. Because that's his big moment at the beginning, where he has this discussion with, so Michael Ironside says basically that line, like, what do you think being a citizen means? Rico recites from the textbook. He says exactly what I just said, accepting responsibility for everybody. And then Ironside says, but do you understand it? Do you actually get it? That is as clear a theme stated as you're going to get in a movie, right? Like,
And
this
Rico
character should, by the end of the movie,
and Rico connects
understand.
with, no, I don't think I do.
yeah, I don't think I do. At the end of the movie, hopefully he does. And at the end of the movie, he gives a speech about how being a citizen entails these things. Do you guys think for 1 second that Rico, in the actual course of the movie, learned any of these lessons?
Hard no.
They tried to hint at it, but there was no. It just wasn't executed well enough to feel earned.
Yeah.
It was obvious that, like, he got his teammate killed in training,
Yeah.
and had to grow from that. But there was no payoff.
And then he becomes, you know what else?
It felt for me like the ending when, they do the thing that they set out to do, and Johnny's all, I'm a citizen, I get it. It felt very much like the end of 1984.
Yeah.
Where Winston Smith is
kind of
like, I am at peace.
Flipped.
Like, I have accepted Big Brother into my heart.
Yeah.
It felt very much like Johnny was like, I have accepted the Federation into my heart, and I am at peace in this war that I'm fighting. So that's what it felt like to me.
So there is so much more that I think I want to talk about with this movie, but I think in the interest of time, let's end it here. And actually, what I'd like to do now is kind of talk about the future of the show and what I would like to see a little bit. One of the things that we've been kicking around is this idea of answering viewer questions, maybe in particular Patreon questions. Another thing that we're definitely going to do is actually have a bonus section where we continue some of this conversation for patrons specifically. So if you're a fan of the show, if you're a fan of Out of Frame, if you liked what you've heard so far, hopefully, join us on Patreon, and we can you'll get exclusive content, and you'll get opportunities to ask questions that we'll address right here in the show. But with that in mind, I think we should close it here. And then if you're a patron, stick around and you will get a little bit of a bonus. So thank you, everybody, for hopefully enjoying the first episode of our Out of Frame podcast. And I'll see you next time.